When Matthew Carter turned 75, he suddenly decided he wanted to move out and live with his white moonlight. I refused, leaning heavily on his cane. His back hunched severely. He trembled as he said, "You've been so obedient for 70 years. Don't start acting out now. After so many years of marriage, it would be a shame to let everything fall apart. It's not worth it." My blood froze, and my heart grew cold. Later, I unexpectedly found myself back in the 1990s. In this lifetime, I only wished to meet him briefly, nothing more. Pulling my gaze away, I chuckled lightly, treasuring this rare moment of clarity. I quickly made a decision. I needed to stay away from Matthew Carter. I didn't want to follow him to the multinational company, tirelessly cleaning up his messes. I didn't want to remain a meek, obedient housekeeper, only to be discarded when he no longer needed me. As I turned, I bumped into someone, a woman in an ethereal white dress, stunningly beautiful. It was Matthew's female buddy, Emily Young. "Sophia Moore. Studying welding? What are you doing here?" Emily tilted her head with a malicious smile. "A woman learning welding? What's the thought process there? Competing with construction workers for jobs? Don't you feel ashamed?" I didn't bother explaining that MIT's welding courses had broader applications. Instead, I wondered why Emily, with whom I'd barely interacted, harbored such relentless hostility toward me from the start. I hadn't understood it before, but having lived through it once, I now knew. Emily was the teapot girl everyone would later gossip about. She looked down on me yet couldn't stop Matthew, whom she admired, from choosing me as his girlfriend, but I didn't want to dwell on it. "You're looking for Matthew? He's already completed his withdrawal paperwork. If you head to his dorm now, you might catch him." Her expression shifted. "Why are you being so snide? So what if I'm here to see Matthew? Is he your boyfriend?" "I'm his buddy. Who says men and women can't have platonic friendships? If I want to see him, I will. If you're unhappy, take it up with him. See if he'd stop talking to me because of you." Her attitude was infuriating, so I slapped her without hesitation. "We call women like you teapot girls, or worse, the kind who knowingly inserts themselves into others' relationships. As someone still dating Matthew, I have every right to put you in your place." Emily clutched her face, her expression twisted with anger, her eyes radiating venom. She was about to lunge at me, but in the next moment, tears welled up, and she suddenly looked pitiful. "Why would you treat me like this? Can't men and women just be friends? Why would you accuse me of these ridiculous things? Teapots? Love triangles? Is it because you think being from MIT makes you superior? That you can insult me? A student from the conservatory? Our conservatory is also a top-tier institution. Why should I tolerate your condescending remarks?" Her eyes brimmed with tears, defiant yet unwilling to back down. "You have such talent. You should pursue acting instead." I didn't need to turn around to know that Matthew Carter had come back. He grabbed my arm with a force so strong it almost hurt, pulling me to the side. "If I catch you bullying Emily again, just try me. Seeing Matthew again, not yet old and gray, caught me off guard. I hadn't adjusted to this version of him. It felt as if the pain from my previous life, when I collapsed from a heart attack, still lingered. "So, as long as you don't get caught, it's fine, right?" I asked, just like how Emily treated me. Matthew's grip loosened slightly, but his voice carried his usual reprimand. "You bullied her in private too? How many horrible things have you done behind my back? Emily rarely tells me anything. She's just too kind. Sophia, you've truly let me down." I found it laughable. In my past life, during those 70 years, the phrase I heard most from him was, "You've truly let me down." Trying not to disappoint him turned me into someone obedient and submissive, almost like a puppet on strings. If it hadn't been for his decision in his later years to move in with his white moonlight, trampling on my dignity, or for his cold indifference when I collapsed from chest pain, I might never have woken up. But now, I had awakened. It was time to live differently. "So, are you asking if I did or didn't?" I said. "If I did, it's slander by the lake. But either way, it doesn't matter anymore. Let me save you the trouble and finish what you're about to say. Let's break up." For a moment, Matthew seemed flustered. He hadn't expected me, always so compliant, To suddenly rebel. What nonsense are you talking about? This isn't like when you chased me for 4 years. Clinging desperately. I'm telling you this once. I won't beg you to stay. Stop being so dramatic. The same tired rhetoric I'd heard countless times over the years made me smile faintly. This meant we were officially done. Didn't it? I nodded and took a step back. He kicked a trash can in anger, his voice rising. What's that supposed to mean? Are you still expecting me to help with your application to the multinational company? Without me, how is someone who studies welding supposed to get in? I looked at him calmly and said, no need to trouble yourself. Matthew's face flushed red with rage. Don't come crying to me later. He kicked the trash can again, grabbed Emily's hand, and stormed off. I turned around without a moment's hesitation and walked toward the principal's office. Regret? That was something I'd never feel. My relationship with Matthew had always been a mismatch. He majored in computer science, while I studied welding. Everyone had questioned why I'd chosen such an unconventional major when more promising fields were available, especially for a woman. What's a proper major for a girl? They'd ask, pointing to people like Emily. Music is perfect. Singing on stage. Dazzling like a star. In my next life, I thought, I'd love to live as carefree as Emily. But in this one, my father had insisted I study materials science. Graduate from MIT, he'd say, and serve the country. It's your duty as my daughter. Ridiculous logic. My roommate once sighed wistfully at graduation, resting her chin on her hand. You're so lucky. I heard you're going to a multinational company with Matthew. I wish I could, but the school won't let me go. My dad would break my legs if I tried. I shook my head at the time. There's nothing great about working for a multinational company. Now, standing in the principal's office with the application form in hand, I knew my answer. In my previous life, I had come here to politely decline his offer to stay and teach. This time, I'd accept. The principal walked out and saw me holding the form. He raised an eyebrow. Here to turn me down again. Are you? Your skills are exceptional. Do you really need to waste them at a multinational company? Sure. The benefits and perks are great. But you and your boyfriend don't both need to go. Even if just one of you works there, you can support a household. Why must both of you fight so hard to get in? The principal had brought up the idea of me staying at the university several times and had naturally looked into my background. He knew I was dating Matthew Carter. Though relationships at this stage in life often couldn't withstand much change, people assumed that what began now would last forever. I shook my head. It's not like that. Principal, let's go inside to talk. After finalizing my decision to stay at the university, I left the administrative building. Around me, students were carrying their luggage and saying their goodbyes, each heading to a new chapter of their lives. After brief farewells, they dispersed to their respective destinations. When I returned to my dorm, my roommate had already packed everything and was waiting to say goodbye to me. I'm heading straight to the Northwest, she said. I won't even have a chance to see my dad before I leave. I wonder if he'll regret forcing me to attend this school. Her tone was wistful. We hugged tightly, knowing this might truly be our last goodbye. Unlike others, who were simply going their separate ways, we were unlikely to meet again. I walked her out of the dorm building, and when I returned, I encountered Matthew Carter hiding in the shadows of the hallway. He spotted me quickly, and the hatred in his eyes was unmistakable. The veins on his temple bulged as he glared at me. Sophia Moore, he said through gritted teeth. You're something else. If you stay, we're done. I froze for a moment. Perhaps I hadn't been clear before. But no matter. I could always say it again. This has nothing to do with you, I replied. He narrowed his eyes, his voice dripping with venom. You're disgusting. That was fast. Changing your heart like that. Fine. Ruin yourself however you want. From now on, we're walking separate paths. Don't ever cross mine again. With that, he stormed past me, his strides quick and furious. Under the shade of the trees, Emily Young emerged and caught up with him, slipping her arm around his, her cheek pressed close to his ear. And Matthew didn't push her away. She turned her head to look back at me, her expression triumphant, like a butterfly dancing in the breeze. But as the season changed, butterflies wouldn't last long into autumn. Emily and Matthew had first met at a school mixer. Emily was one of the main performers, slated for a solo performance. Before her turn, she waited in an empty hallway, headphones on, listening to her MP3 player. Matthew, passing by, noticed her. Emily, seeing him, removed one earbud and smiled. "This is an MP3 player," she said proudly. "A new model from Korea. My dad spent a fortune on it. There aren't many like this in the country. Super expensive. Have you seen one before? What do you use to listen to music? Don't tell me it's an old-fashioned Walkman. Oh, do you have a cell phone? You look decent enough. Let's exchange numbers. What brand is your phone? Is it a Nokia? Did you know Nokia has Snake? Or do you play games on a console? The newest Nokia models even have built-in games. Did you upgrade your phone? If you don't know how to use it, I can teach you." She bombarded him with questions. But Matthew couldn't answer any of them. His phone still had an antenna. He didn't have a Walkman, only a second-hand CD player passed down through several owners, which he used to study English. He didn't own a gaming console, nor did he have time for games. He was so poor that if he ever let his guard down, he wouldn't know where his next meal would come from. Yet, he never felt offended by Emily Young. To Matthew Carter, Emily was like someone from another world, or rather, another class entirely, a class he aspired to reach. Sometimes, Matthew would lose himself in thought. When I called him back to reality, he'd say, "Sophia, maybe you could try wearing dresses, putting on makeup, and using a few solid, polished accessories. It makes people unable to take their eyes off you." Back then, I was naive and clueless. I stupidly replied, "Wouldn't that take a lot of money and effort?" I didn't notice how the light in Matthew's eyes, briefly focused on me, dimmed in an instant. Perhaps he realized at that moment that he didn't need someone like him by his side, but he didn't have the courage to say it outright. So he begrudgingly stayed with me for a lifetime. As I packed my belongings and prepared to leave the campus, I unexpectedly ran into Emily Young. She was leaning against the doorway, waiting for me. "Aren't you curious about what Matthew and I talked about?" she asked. "You're in my way," I replied honestly. Her face darkened. "What's with your high and mighty attitude? You think staying on as a teacher with your iron rice bowl makes you untouchable? That no one is worthy of speaking to you? Let me tell you something. I've already been hired by a TV station. Soon, I'll be a professional actress. Not only will I be singing, but I'll also be participating in all kinds of variety shows. Do you even know how popular variety shows are these days? People who stand out on them become household names. Teachers like you will be poor nobodies for life. Never famous." She smirked. "Ever heard of shows like Happy Camp or Our Song? People like you couldn't even dream of appearing on those, let alone any well-known variety show. Actually, forget those. Someone like you won't even get a single second of airtime on television." "Wow," I said, smiling faintly. "You're really amazing." Her expression grew darker. "You don't believe me, do you? I'm telling you. Someday, whenever you turn on the TV, you'll see me. And when that happens, don't smash your TV out of jealousy. Or better yet, gouge your eyes out. I can't wait to see you completely overshadowed by me." I tilted my head, crossing my arms. "So, your ultimate life goal is to surpass me?" Without warning, she raised her hand to slap me. "What gives you the confidence to act so smug? Are you trying to provoke me? Fine. I'll give you what you deserve." I dodged her, and since the stairs were right behind her, she lost her balance and fell, tumbling all the way down. I sighed. Some people dedicate their lives to quiet, uncelebrated at work. Others make so much noise they leave everyone's ears ringing. Fame can come in many forms, being universally admired or being infamous. Let's see which one you'll become. Emily's fall sent her straight to the hospital. She refused to disclose the extent of her injuries to anyone. After being discharged, she was often seen clutching her lower abdomen and complaining of persistent pain. Due to the sudden turn of events, her planned variety show appearances were canceled, forcing her to take an entire summer off from work. Matthew Carter's reaction to all this was even more dramatic. When he confronted me, his fury was uncontainable. "Sophia Moore, you've crossed the line. How could you be so cruel to Emily? Why did you have to ruin her? I know you've always been jealous of her. No girl isn't jealous of her. But to stoop so low as to harm her and make yourself a criminal. What's wrong with you? He grabbed my arm and yanked me to my feet. You're coming with me to the police station. Matthew Carter said coldly. You have to pay for what you did. You pushed her and caused her to suffer such severe consequences. You deserve to be ruined too. You shouldn't be a teacher. The new school semester had started, and I was now a professor for incoming freshmen in the welding program. My colleagues in the office began to murmur. One of them bluntly saying, Emily Young said you pushed her. You know defamation can be criminally prosecuted, right? Even though surveillance wasn't widespread back then. Our school had cameras installed in every corner due to its unique requirements. Are you really that ignorant? Matthew's hand dropped to his side. Stunned, I continued. People shouldn't just hold others to high standards. Sometimes, they need to hold themselves accountable too. For example, you should have realized by now that surveillance cameras, which are easily visible if you just look up, would disprove these lies. Matthew didn't meet my gaze. Instead, he started ranting, his voice defensive and bitter. You're starting to look down on me too, aren't you? I bury myself in studying and work every day, struggling to make ends meet. What's wrong with that? I don't even have time to look up at the sky. But at least I'm more noble than you. I haven't sold my body to sleep with some old man 40 years my senior. So, this was what Emily had told him, and he believed every word of it. I lowered my voice. Matthew Carter, don't discuss me any further. Otherwise, I'll make sure you suffer the consequences you deserve. But Matthew dismissed my warning. He was too self-assured, convinced I wouldn't hurt him, that I couldn't drive him away no matter what. In front of everyone, he demanded, Then why were you allowed to stay at the university? You're just a woman. How did you manage to achieve something that even so many men couldn't? Why you? It was true that there weren't many female professors in our office, nor were there many women in the welding program as a whole. But did that prove anything? I kept my tone calm, addressing not just him but anyone else who might be ready to judge me. My grades and professional skills ranked first in my field. You're welcome to check. Matthew didn't hesitate. That's just a coincidence. Grades are influenced by countless unstable factors. They don't mean anything. I stood there silently, trying to recall why I had ever been with him in the first place. The memories from 74 years ago were blurry, faded with time, and honestly, they probably weren't worth remembering. Deciding not to waste any more energy on him, I said quietly, Get out. He stared at me, his eyes flickering with unspoken thoughts. After a moment, he mouthed the word bitch. Suddenly, it hit me. The beginning of our relationship had been nothing but a farce. It started at a party, hosted by a wealthy heir who had invited the entire school. He demanded I accompany him, and when I refused, he and his friends started hurling insults at me, calling me a whore and escort. Their crude words echoed loudly in the room, their laughter piercing as I stood in the center, my face burning with shame. It was Matthew who stepped in to help, to defuse the situation. He declared, She's my girlfriend. The others, of course, didn't believe him. The heir sneered. You two are dating? Prove it. Show us here and now. If you're lying, then we'll be keeping the girl tonight for a little fun. Cornered. Matthew didn't touch me. Instead, he grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it against his own head with all his strength. Blood, or perhaps wine, dripped down his face as he glared at them. You all need to learn some respect. And if you can't, I'll teach you with the broken glass in my hand. The bottle he smashed was a 1998 vintage Lafite, worth a small fortune. He was humiliated by the heir afterward and spent a long time paying off the debt. Whenever I tried to give him money to help, he'd stubbornly refuse, saying, I broke the bottle. It's my responsibility to pay for it. You were never wrong from the start. Back then, I was genuinely moved, so much so that I lost all sense of reason. Only now do I realize that when Matthew Carter spoke about respect, he meant respect for people like him, not for women. The respect he sought was the kind shown to equals, to his own kind. That's why, when Matthew described me later, he unconsciously used the same derogatory terms the wealthy heir had used. Now, here he was, using those same vile words to demean a woman. Matthew was someone with an overbearing, almost pathological sense of pride. He would do anything to escape his inferior status. This was clear when he reappeared in my life during the implementation of new regulations for part-time graduate programs. He showed up pretending everything was fine, asking me for some insider information. He even bought me the latest Nokia phone with built-in games, a model worth 9,000 yuan, equivalent to my savings for an entire quarter. "How much do you earn as a teacher?" he asked, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Do you even save 300 yuan a month? If I get into the part-time graduate program, I'll be earning more than 10 times your salary while finishing my degree. Once I graduate, my income will double again. And you? Even if your salary doubles or triples, it'll still just be a few hundred yuan. Sophia, I'm a great catch, aren't I? There's no need to look down on me. You should be admiring me. Let's get back together." The speed at which I came to understand the real Matthew Carter was astonishing. He didn't hesitate to expose his deepest flaws right in front of me, as if they didn't matter at all. Perhaps, to him, they truly didn't. That's why he could act so brazenly. I glanced at the phone he had given me. "So, what is this supposed to be? A gift or a bribe?" Matthew's face hardened, his expression a mix of disbelief and frustration. "What do you mean? I gave you a gift, and now you're calling it bribery?" I shrugged. "Well, you have to admit, there's a difference between us now. I'm a teacher, and you're a prospective student, or not even that. Since this is the first year of the part-time graduate program, no one knows the admission rates, the selection criteria, the course structure, or whether it'll interfere with your job at the multinational company. And who's to say you'll even get in? It's a bit premature to draw lines between us. But as things stand, I'm a teacher and you're not, so you should take your phone back. Or I might report you for attempted bribery." Matthew's hands clenched into fists before he slowly released them. "Do we really need to be this hostile toward each other? We were together for 4 years. I'll admit, what I said last time was out of line, but I've thought about it since. Our principal is already 70 years old. If not for the lack of personnel, he wouldn't still be in his position. He's been grooming his deputy to take over, and he barely handles any actual responsibilities anymore. If you really wanted to achieve something, wouldn't it make more sense to get involved with his deputy? Besides, without that kind of relationship, how could someone like you, 50 years younger than the principal, ever have anything inappropriate going on with him?" I was so disgusted by his words that I spoke without thinking. What's 50 years? I've shared a bed with someone 70 years older than me, though, to be fair, thinking about it now does make me sick. Matthew's eyebrows twitched, clearly unsettled by my absurd statement. He didn't believe me, but whether something was absurd or not was entirely a matter of perspective. The rumors about me and the principal were laughable to me. Still, I couldn't help but wonder what Matthew would think if he found out that Emily Young had fabricated the lies about me. So, I asked him. He stared at me for a long time before finally saying, "Emily never said anything like that about you. He just wanted to give you a friendly reminder." Matthew said, "To warn you to be careful and avoid unnecessary risks. When did you start assuming the worst about people? Why can't you be like you were before?" I responded coldly. "Then why didn't he come to tell me himself? Isn't that obvious? I have a better relationship with him than you do. To him, you're practically a stranger. Of course, he'd come to me first if something came up." I said nothing more. There was no point in continuing this conversation. "You don't need to waste your energy on me," I finally said. "I've already decided not to stay on as a teacher." I pointed toward the office door. "Please leave, even though it's after hours. I hope you'll follow basic etiquette next time. Like knocking. Though it'd be best if there's no next time." Matthew opened his mouth to say something, but I put my earbuds in and closed my eyes. The office, which had briefly fallen silent, was soon interrupted again as the door opened without warning. Emily Young appeared, holding a camera in her hand. Well, she said, glancing around. "Just Miss Moore here all by herself? Staying late to impress the higher-ups? Huh." She snapped a picture of me with her camera. "But this won't work. Pretending to work hard won't get you anywhere. You should take a page out of my book." She held up the camera with a triumphant grin. "See this? It's the latest digital camera, a reward from my TV station. Have you heard of digital cameras? They don't need film. You can take a photo, store it, and check it immediately. Bet you've never seen anything like this. Huh. I was too tired to engage, rubbing my temples as she prattled on. So, what? I asked, my tone flat. So, Emily replied, you think missing a few shows will keep me from becoming a star? Think again. The station's executives are planning to heavily promote me. Soon, I'll achieve what I said before. You'll see me anytime, anywhere. And every time you do, you'll feel so inferior you'll wish you could disappear. I sighed, feeling more certain than ever that my decision was the right one. I no longer wanted to teach. I wanted to weld. Weld airplanes, rockets, maybe even aircraft carriers someday. I wanted to do something meaningful, something where my efforts wouldn't be wasted. Perhaps the sparks and the intensity of welding were where I truly belonged. Ever since Matthew's public outburst in the office, I'd noticed my colleagues glancing at me, huddling together to whisper and snicker. It happened often, with both male and female colleagues, and it made the atmosphere dull and tiresome. Days like this felt pointless, draining my energy. There were plenty of ways to realize one's value in life. Today, I submitted a formal report to the principal and began handing over my tasks. Once everything was settled, I'd head to Gansu. I'd been too absolute before, claiming I'd never cross paths with my roommate again. Maybe we could meet again in some other place. The place I was going was a classified unit, one that required secrecy. But when I shared my plans during the handover process, the office was abuzz with speculation. She finally cracked under the pressure of the pay gap and decided to work for a multinational company. Someone remarked, if we had good connections, we wouldn't be stuck here either. Someone else muttered bitterly, what's with the act? She just can't stand seeing her ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend thriving. One making big bucks in a multinational company, the other a rising star in the entertainment industry. Now she wants to run to a multinational too. Does she even qualify? These days, college grads pop up like bamboo shoots after rain. Another voice chimed in. Graduating without work experience? No multinational would hire her. What would they even hire her to do? Give lectures? Her ambitions are sky high, but her capabilities are paper thin. I walked up to the person talking, tapped on his desk, and said, you seem to have a pretty clear understanding of yourself. His face betrayed his guilt and embarrassment. Finally, he muttered, unwilling to concede, why are you only calling me out? I'm not the only one who dislikes you. Don't worry, I replied calmly. I'll live a life more content than any of you ever will, without the constant frowns and complaints that plague your days. After completing the handover of my tasks, I stopped going to the school altogether. I stayed home for 2 days to rest, waiting for the car that would take me to report to the launch base. I hadn't expected the rumors in the office to spread so quickly. Emily Young, using her identity as an entertainment star, alluded to me during a televised program. She spoke in a way that seemed heartfelt but was clearly aimed at discrediting me. I really admire those unsung heroes, she said with tears in her eyes. The ones who endure loneliness and injustice, dedicating themselves selflessly to their work even if the world never remembers their names. Unlike some people, who treat teaching as a joke, they leave their students behind the moment fame and fortune come calling, showing no regard for the student's future. It's truly heartbreaking and disappointing. Our society shouldn't reward this kind of behavior. As she spoke, tears rolled down her cheeks, and she forced a smile. Please don't mind me, she added. I just got a bit emotional. After all, they took someone else's spot to stay at the university, someone who truly deserved it. I couldn't help but want to persuade them not to go down a path they'll regret. But if they feel they've done nothing wrong, I'll just let it be. Her remarks aired during prime time, and she privately leaked identifying details about me. In an era when tabloids thrived, her comments caused a stir. Numerous media outlets picked up the story, and someone even uploaded a clear, front-facing photo of me at work. The one Emily had snapped with her digital camera, capturing me with my earbuds in, resting after work hours. The narrative quickly spiraled. People questioned my professionalism, wondering if I was slacking during normal working hours. Although I wasn't bothered by idle speculation, knowing I'd soon be in a remote, isolated place where rumors couldn't reach me, I feared my superiors might take the allegations seriously and penalize me. If that happened, my dream of working with welding sparks might be over. Fortunately, the tables turned. I wasn't the one punished. Emily was. Our school's unique setup, with surveillance cameras installed everywhere, became my shield. When reporters swarmed the campus, the principal pulled up footage for them. The recordings showed me diligently preparing lessons, never slacking during class, and often being the last one to leave the office. The rare moment captured with my earbuds in was just that, a rare instance after hours. Public opinion shifted as the truth came out. But this wasn't the end of it. Emily, as a television personality, often appeared in front of the public. I, on the other hand, was heading to a classified national project. The higher-ups issued a directive to reduce Emily's on-screen presence. Back then, there wasn't a formal term for being blacklisted. But this was essentially what happened. With the directive in place, Emily's career on television came to an abrupt halt. Her fame, like a fleeting bloom, faded just as quickly. She was like a butterfly in late autumn, withering too soon. Emily turned to drinking, eventually landing in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. While hospitalized, she had a meltdown and demanded that Matthew Carter bring me to her. Matthew hesitated. "Sophia Moore won't come," he said. "I've angered her too much. She probably doesn't want to see me." Emily screamed hysterically. "I'm asking you to bring her to me, not for her to see you. Are you going or not? If you don't, I'm leaving too. Matthew Carter, you were just with me. I'm already your second girlfriend. If you break up again this quickly, everyone will say you're a player. Do you even care about your reputation? If you do, go find Sophia Moore and bring her here to see me." Matthew Carter had no idea that while he and Emily Young were arguing in her hospital room, I happened to be at the hospital for a checkup. Passing by their room, I overheard every word and saw the hesitation in Matthew's eyes. Before leaving, I sent an email to the multinational company where Matthew worked, reporting him for falsifying his academic records. During his tenure, the code he wrote had caused several errors, some minor, some significant. These weren't mistakes due to carelessness. They were mistakes born of incompetence. Knowing this, I felt a thorn in my heart, and it seemed only fair that his days wouldn't go smoothly either. Fairness, after all, is a two-way street. Satisfied, I left, never expecting to see him again 5 years later. By that time, my roommate, John Aiken, and I had spent 4 years in the same dorm and another 5 years working together. Our familiarity had grown into mutual irritation. "Hey, old Moore," John called out casually. "Dinner's ready. Rumor has it there's a handsome guy starting today." It's 2003, and the world outside has been celebrating the 21st century for years now. But here we are, still stuck cutting and welding materials. Just the two of us, staring at each other. Even the sparks from our welding rods have lost their thrill. "Let's go. We need some excitement tonight." I gave him a thumbs up. Lonely for years, and now you're all fired up. Impressive. But when we met the newcomer, John bit into his bread with a scowl and muttered, "What rotten luck." The newcomer was Matthew Carter. John, knowing my history with Matthew, had often joined me in mocking him during our idle moments. When there wasn't anyone else to criticize, we dragged Matthew into our conversations, dissecting his flaws. Even sparrows that occasionally landed on high-voltage wires weren't spared from our ridicule. Venting about Matthew had become second nature to us. Matthew, however, seemed oblivious to the hostility. Holding a lunch tray, he approached me and said, "Sophia, long time no see." John snorted, clearly unimpressed. Matthew continued, "What a coincidence. It's good to see old classmates again. How have you two been? Especially you, Sophia. It's been years. How's life been treating you?" He seemed unaware that no one wanted to engage with him. After a moment of awkward silence, he pressed on, "Sophia, don't you have anything to say to me? You're the one who reported me back then, aren't you?" I looked up at him briefly but said nothing. My lack of denial seemed to confirm his suspicions. Matthew continued, "It had to be you. Over the years, I've wronged no one, at least not intentionally. I was always too afraid of making mistakes, too scared of offending people. If I upset someone, The time and energy needed to mend the relationship would be unbearable for me. Looking back, the only thing I can apologize for is the rumors you endured 5 years ago because of me. Matthew explained that he had resigned from the multinational company on his own accord. He then focused on preparing for exams and was admitted to a full-time graduate program at the same university, in the same field as before. During his 2 years in graduate school, he heard about the gossip I'd faced in the office. "I'm sorry, Sophia," he said. "I never expected my careless words to cause such a significant shift in your life. All because of a few things I said. You've changed jobs, even the nature of your work, and disappeared without a trace for 5 years. If it weren't for someone in the office who felt guilty and vaguely mentioned your whereabouts, I wouldn't have known you came here. Now I've proactively submitted a transfer request to join you here. A master's degree isn't easy to come by, but I've decided to work as a humble programmer in the aerospace department. This is my choice, so you don't have to feel burdened." Matthew Carter reached out as if to touch my hand. "Sophia, I don't blame you for making me lose such a great job. Can you stop holding my unintentional mistakes against me too?" A sharp clang echoed through the cafeteria as a piece of metal was dropped onto a tray. "How far has the world fallen for someone to be this shameless?" John Aiken said, picking up his tray. Before he could act, I stepped forward. Just as John's grip faltered, I grabbed his tray and slammed it down onto Matthew's head. "Let me handle this, John," I said. "He's vindictive and ruthless. Don't give him a reason to come after you." Soup and sauce dripped from Matthew's hair. He looked as though he was struggling to suppress his anger, wavering between an outburst and physical retaliation. But in the end, he held himself back. "Sophia, does this make you feel better? So, can you forgive me? I've spent 5 years preparing to ask for your forgiveness. No one's been more sincere than I am." John chuckled sarcastically. "Oops, my grip slipped. Really sorry about that." Without hesitation, he dropped his own tray onto Matthew's head. Matthew's restraint was surprising, but what shocked me more was the camaraderie John and I had developed over the years. At critical moments, we truly stood united. Fearing punishment for wasting food, we quickly fled the scene. That night, as I lay in bed waiting for John, he didn't return. It was frustrating enough that we shared a dorm. Having to search for him in the middle of the night was even more annoying. Grabbing a flashlight, I headed out, only to trip over someone lying on the ground. Blood was streaming from his nose and mouth. It was John. Don't come near me. Get away," he croaked. "It's radioactive material." Using his body, he shielded the object from me and urged me to call for help, ensuring that the responders wore proper protective gear to isolate the area. Years of rigorous training kicked in, and I knew John was right. But if he wasn't rescued quickly, he'd die from radiation exposure. For the first time, I realized just how perilous our work truly was. Sacrifice was closer than I'd ever imagined. I shrugged off my jacket and tossed it to John. "Use this to wrap the radioactive stone," I told him, though I knew it wouldn't help much. Any delay we could manage was better than nothing. Then, I sprinted toward the radiation prevention unit. Behind me, John, his voice trembling but resolute, called out, "Wait, Sophia, tell my dad something for me. I know he and my stepmom had another child, a boy. I know why he gave me this name. Even though he says he loves me, I know he doesn't. I also know why he insisted on sending me to MIT. If I achieve something great, or even sacrifice myself, then I'll be his pride, the brightest glory of the family. But if I die unknown and forgotten, he'll be relieved to have shed a burden. Don't think I don't know. On the day he sent me to university, he'd already considered me dead." There was hatred in John's eyes as he mustered the strength to finish his thoughts. I stood rooted to the spot, watching him. The blood spreading across his clothes became more vivid, more horrifying with each passing second. Finally, he coughed up a mouthful of blood and said hoarsely, "It's okay. Don't panic. Don't cry. I'll be fine." This was my responsibility, to inspect the materials. If it wasn't me, someone else would have done it. And if I hadn't done it thoroughly, it would have been someone else lying here instead. But don't worry, the radioactive level of this material isn't very high. It's only enough to affect me. He looked at me with unwavering eyes. Sophia, you've been by my side the longest. You're my comrade and my family. Make sure that when others inspect materials, they wear proper protective gear. Don't let them be careless like me. I fought to keep my emotions in check, forcing myself to stay clear-headed. As quickly as I could, I reported everything to my superiors. Then, I stubbornly stood my ground, insisting, there are suspicious individuals among the new recruits. I request immediate approval to investigate their backgrounds. The leadership's expressions turned grave. This must be thoroughly investigated, they said firmly. Someone bringing radioactive materials here. It's a serious matter. Matthew Carter stood off to the side, his face pale. I hope it's not you, he muttered under his breath. When John Aiken's death was finally reported, it was only after the radio station aired a story about his sacrifice. His biological father and stepmother had been notified but delayed handling his affairs. They feared the radioactive materials might still pose a risk to them, even after the workplace repeatedly assured them that everything had been decontaminated. When John's ashes were finally claimed, I sat on a flat stone slab at the base. The vast, barren land stretched endlessly around me, and I stared at the yellow earth for a long time without blinking. Someone approached from behind and handed me a water bottle. Drink a little, Matthew said, crouching beside me. I caught the scent of alcohol. It took quite some effort to get this, he continued. Just a little. It might help. I've already taken leave for you, he added. Everyone understands. Your superiors and colleagues all sympathize, knowing how close you and John were. I turned to him and asked coldly, sympathize with what? Sympathize with a stranger who thinks he has the right to take leave on my behalf. Matthew wiped his face with his hand, clearly frustrated. I've already humbled myself enough. What more do you want? Are you upset about being here? Few are. Then leave. No one's forcing you to stay. You chose to come here, didn't you? If you wanted another job, it's not like you couldn't find one. You chose this. So don't blame me. I couldn't ignore the strange feeling in my chest anymore. What's wrong with this place? I asked, my voice steady. Matthew's demeanor shifted. He took the water bottle back, his voice quieter now. I know what you're suspicious about, but it's not me. This is the only place that treats me as an equal. If I want to start over, I always have that chance here. My abilities may not be enough, and my mindset might not have been right, but here, I have the opportunity to improve. He hesitated for a moment before continuing. But that company I worked for, they wouldn't. I didn't quit voluntarily. They didn't want to pay me severance. They threatened that if they fired me, my records would look bad. So I had no choice but to resign. My life has faced so much injustice, Matthew Carter said. But the society we live in tells me this is an era where, if you want to change what's unfair, you always have a chance to do so. You shouldn't think of me this way. After saying this, Matthew left. But I didn't believe him. Matthew decided to stay and work here as a low-level programmer, writing endless lines of code, perhaps only to see a single line be useful after a year. Meanwhile, the issue of the radioactive stone that appeared at the facility remained unresolved. No culprit was identified. The leadership stated, if we let suspicion dictate our actions, everyone at the facility could be a suspect. If we refuse to work with people we suspect, this facility might as well shut down. I closed my eyes briefly, suppressing my doubts, and returned to my work. About 3 days later, a visitor arrived, Emily Young. She had come to see Matthew Carter. At some point, they had confirmed their relationship, and at some point, they had gotten married. Surprised, Emily said with a smirk. Did you think Matthew would keep chasing after you forever? Don't be ridiculous. I told you. You'll never compare to me. Emily seemed completely unaffected by the disciplinary action she'd faced earlier. In fact, her complexion looked better than ever, likely because she no longer had the stress of appearing on television every day. Her demeanor had also grown far more refined, exuding a sense of wealth and privilege. I found myself wondering, why have I never heard anything about your family before? You always seem to have trendy, fun gadgets, an endless supply of beautiful clothes, and access to the latest electronics from around the world. I can't help but envy you. Emily laughed lightly. My father is a wealthy businessman abroad. He travels to different countries for work. So getting these things is easy. It was too fast. Nearly as soon as something was produced, Emily had it in her hands. Her father's business dealings seemed almost unnaturally convenient. I thought I had finally figured out who was behind all this. Just as I was about to report it, Matthew appeared, his face dark with anger, blocking my path. Matthew Carter, you're Chinese. Don't you always say you love your country? Why are you stopping me? After a long silence, Matthew sighed deeply. Some things don't need to be done by you, Sophia. Maybe I'm not as despicable as you think I am. Pressed him, trying to confirm. What are you talking about? When I first arrived at the base, he began cautiously, I tried to figure out why you wouldn't forgive me. If it wasn't about the office incident, it could only be something from another life. After all, I don't think I've done anything in this life to make you resent me this much. I asked him directly, when did you wake up to this supposed past life? Matthew laughed bitterly, the smile tinged with self-deprecation. I've been having fragmented dreams since you left 5 years ago. The dreams are so vivid, so detailed, that they can't be explained any other way. The only way I could make sense of them was to think of them as memories from a past life. Matthew continued, the things I've seen in my dreams, they go beyond what you might remember. In the dreams, after you died from a heart attack, Emily returned to the country. She constantly probed me for answers about technical matters. Seemingly harmless questions but carefully worded. It was 2068, and by then, the government had introduced many new regulations. Certain industries overlapped and came under strict controls. Emily used me to extract critical information. At first, I suspected her, but eventually, I confirmed the truth. She had been working for foreign entities all along. By the time I realized this, I had already leaked too much classified information. I was terrified of being discovered and losing everything I had left. When I confronted her again, accusing her directly, she didn't deny it. Instead, she retaliated aggressively, shutting me down completely. He said everything that happened in the past life was because of his foolishness. Matthew Carter ended up killing Emily Young by accident. But fortunately, in this life, none of that has happened. I deliberately waited until you were about to leave to marry her, to lower her guard, planning everything step by step to uncover evidence of her betraying the country. Matthew explained. Including John Aiken? Was he part of your plan too? I asked. I've already told you. Stop assuming the worst about me. Matthew replied sharply. That was just an accident. I couldn't prevent everything Emily did. She would have noticed something was wrong. John's death wasn't intentional. So did you choose to let John go? Or was it because of the soup and gravy poured on your head in the cafeteria that day? I said coldly. A vengeful, ruthless man like you. What a piece of work. A heavy weight settled on my chest. In our past life, John hadn't died. He'd even video called me the day before my heart attack, joking that he was lucky never to have married. Otherwise, he'd have ended up like me, old and alone. I had laughed at him and said he'd pay for his lack of good deeds in this life by owing them in the next. I wondered now if my words had been prophetic. Matthew placed both hands on my shoulders, his voice gentle but firm. Sophia, nothing is immutable. Haven't I already taken a completely different path in this life compared to the last? Even when I doubted whether those dreams were real or just my imagination, I still chose to report Emily Young for you. Let me handle it. You don't need to bear this burden. I will. Matthew must have thought himself heroic, ready to sacrifice anything, even his life, to exact justice. And he did report Emily, to ensure there were no loose ends. He timed it perfectly, catching her red-handed as she attempted to plant radioactive material again. Emily was arrested on the spot. When she saw Matthew, she nearly lost her mind. Why would you do this to me? I had better options. But I still married you. All these years, you've spent my money, and now you're betraying me? You're nothing but an ungrateful scumbag. Shut up, Matthew said coldly. Take her away. Even as Emily continued cursing, Matthew's gaze remained fixed on me. Emily turned her furious eyes toward me and screamed, Why? Why am I better than you in every way? Yet the man I fought for still betrays me to help you? Why did he choose you? It's not fair. I'm not willing to accept this. Her cries echoed as she was dragged away. Matthew then approached me solemnly. Sophia, if I truly have been reborn and we both started over at the same point, I wouldn't make the same choices. I'd try harder to win your heart, to ensure no one else could take your place. Matthew's words were an implicit admission of his past feelings for others. Sophia, I've made amends for all the wrongs I did in our past life. Haven't I? Can we start over? I gagged at the thought. Stop deluding yourself. Emily, desperate to reduce her sentence, accused Matthew in court of sharing in her illegal earnings. She revealed that Matthew, fully aware of her true identity, had turned a blind eye for 5 years. Worse, she claimed he had even occasionally helped her, whether intentionally or unintentionally. For instance, although Emily had arrived in Gansu early, she had planted radioactive stones before formally joining the unit. Taking advantage of Matthew's facilitation, Matthew was subsequently investigated and found complicit. He was convicted as an accomplice and sentenced to prison. When Matthew was imprisoned, he couldn't believe it. Gripping his head tightly, he muttered over and over, No. I should have been promoted. I should have been rewarded and honored. Why did I choose the country? Only for the country to betray me. And you, Sophia Moore. I chose you. Yet you can't wait to see me burn in hell. Why are all of you treating me this way? I looked at him and said calmly, You've only ever chosen yourself, Matthew, and if you end up in hell, consider it repayment for the life you owe me. Justice served. You deserve it. After Matthew was sent to prison, I took a bouquet of flowers to John Aiken's small grave to pay my respects. Years passed, and I found peace in my work. The sparks of welding became my purpose, lighting a path forward. I no longer sought approval or recognition. Instead, I built things that mattered, shaping a future far removed from the pain of the past. Standing beneath the vast sky at my latest assignment, I breathed deeply, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Life's endpoint remained unknown, but it no longer mattered. I was no longer running. I was moving forward, steady and unshaken, ready for whatever came next.